Hey guys, I'm Theobald Headman and welcome to Southern Ingenuity. Today's video, I'm going to be making a lightweight deer hunting blind to mount to the top of a tripod deer stand. It's going to be 4 foot square by 5.5 feet tall and made from 1/2-inch conduit and some old aluminum siding. Now this particular hunting blind will always have a very special meaning to me, and that's because some of the materials used to build it were provided by a dear old friend of mine. We were going to use them to build a blind that he and I both could hunt out of, but unfortunately he passed away before we got the chance to do so. This video is dedicated to his memory. The main part of the frame is going to consist of 4 horizontal perimeter rails attached to 4 vertical stanchions. Now the perimeter rails are too long to be made with just one piece of standard 10-foot conduit, so I'll have to make 2 sections for each rail and then join them together. To join the rail sections together, I'm going to make some internal splice connectors from a piece of scrap conduit. After cutting the connectors to length, I remove a small section from the side of each one. The connectors are then driven through a tapered die that I made from 2 old square nuts and a piece of flat metal. This squeezes down the diameter so that they can be easily inserted into the ends of the rail sections. A small hole is drilled in the conduit so that the splice connector can be spot welded into place. The connectors actually serve 2 purposes. One, they perfectly align the sections with each other while providing extra strength to the joint. And 2, they increase the thickness of the welded seam. This helps prevent burning a hole in the conduit as the seam is being welded together. I am by no means a professional when it comes to welding, and I struggle to get a decent bead on thin gauge metal like this. But I found that putting an additional piece of filler metal between the work pieces helps to control the heat and bridge the space in between. This helps reduce the chance of burning a hole in the thin metal. Just for the record, I know that welding galvanized material like this conduit can be dangerous, so I'll make sure to only do it in a well-ventilated area while staying upwind of the exhaust airflow. Sometimes you gotta improvise when you're working on something like this by yourself. These makeshift positioning brackets help to hold the rails in place while they're being welded to the uprights. With the main part of the frame complete, I install the door jambs. They help to stabilize the perimeter rails and provide a place to attach the siding and the door. Next, I attach the frame to the base. The base is made from an old department store clothing rack, and it's designed to fit on the tripod's footrest. This requires some extra bracing and reinforcement on the tripod. I may make another video in the future showing how I did all that, so if you'd like to see that, let me know in the comments. Well, apparently the camera lens wasn't properly cleaned for these next few clips, so I apologize for the poor quality video. But here I'm making the frame for the door. It's going to hinge at the top and swing upward so I can enter the blind from the bottom as I climb up the ladder. Clamping the frame to a square block helps to get it properly aligned for drilling the holes for the hinge pins. These cross members are being installed to support the latching mechanism. I'll be using some old corrugated aluminum panels for the siding. These panels, along with some of the conduit, were provided by my old hunting buddy. And building a hunting blind was one of the many projects that he and I had planned to do together, but didn't get the chance before he passed away. Now personally, I like to use these corrugated asphalt panels for the roof of my hunting blinds. They're not terribly expensive and they're relatively lightweight, but the main reason I prefer these over a metal roof is because they're much quieter when it's raining. It lets me hear my surroundings better, and I feel like it draws less attention to my position. Using some roofing screws, I attached the edges to a piece of 2x2 wooden board. Then, I attached the board to the top perimeter rail. As I mentioned earlier, this video is dedicated to the memory of my dear old friend and hunting buddy, Doug Crawford. He was an avid hunter, fisherman, artist, musician, and family man. And he was one of the few people in my life that I've been able to call a true friend. I first met him when I was just a young teenager. He worked in a local factory with my dad. One night he came to our house and asked my dad to help him dress a deer he had just harvested. After that, we began hunting together periodically on some land where he had hunting rights. Several years later, I graduated high school and went to work at another local factory. Just by chance, Doug got a job there as well, and in the same department as me. We worked the same schedule, and that gave us a ton of time to hunt, fish, and just hang out together. And this is where our friendship really started to grow. And this is also where I came to know him as the Big Dog, a nickname that I think he gave to himself, though I'm not 100% sure. And he could make me laugh like no one else with some sort of crazy expression or hilarious comeback when joking around with the other coworkers. And he would often refer to himself in the third person and say something silly like, "Dougie want a Coca-Cola," which loosely translated meant he was thirsty and wanted a Coke. Or he may say something like, "The Big Dog's ready to lay the smack down," which meant he was anxiously anticipating his next hunting adventure. But as crazy and silly as he often was, he also had a very serious and caring side. He was about 12 years older than me, and I often found myself taking counsel from him on various issues. He helped me learn to keep an open mind and to see things from different perspectives without just jumping straight to a conclusion. He would listen intently and give solid, non-judgmental advice. But as often is the case in life, things change, priorities shift, and old friends drift apart. I fell in love with a beautiful young woman, got married, and started a family. His children were starting to get married and have kids of their own. And before we knew it, we weren't hanging out together anymore. We didn't have a falling out or a fight or anything like that. Life just happened. And it was like that for many years. We would see or talk to each other periodically, but we just didn't hang out and do the things like we used to. Then one day he called me up and said, "Hey buddy, we need to get together and go do some hunting." He had been battling various health issues over the years, and COVID had left him dependent on an oxygen bottle. He wanted to get back to the outdoors and try to rebuild his strength as well as our old friendship. We were able to reconnect and go dove hunting in September of 2021. And though we were technically hunting, we didn't fire a single shot. We spent the whole time laughing, catching up on lost time, and reminiscing about past hunting and fishing adventures. Needless to say, we were happy to see each other again. Over the next few months, we continued to hunt together in pursuit of deer, squirrels, and coyotes. And despite his physical limitations, he always kept a positive attitude. I never once heard him complain or say, "Why me?" It was always, "I'm going to get better, and we're going to do this, or we're going to do that." One afternoon while we were deer hunting, he was able to take his first coyote.
Coyote down, baby, on the ground.
To say he was excited would be an understatement. But he continued to battle health issues with his loving wife of 37 years never leaving his side. And in June of 2022, he suffered a heart attack and passed away. He was 58 years old. You know, they say people grieve in different ways. And so I suppose this small tribute to my old friend is just part of that process for me. Occasionally I'll see or hear something that reminds me of him and it brings back an old memory. Sometimes I laugh, sometimes I cry. But I always thank God for allowing Doug Crawford to be a part of my life and for giving us those last few months to reconnect. Fly high, big dog.